Hey guys, welcome back to another episode. Today it is the first day back after the Easter break. We're on a site here in Leicestershire where we're going to be painting in a load of different lines really. We've got zebra crossings, we've got lorry parking bays, we've got hatch lines, a bit of internal, and of course we're going to be using a range of machinery. We have the brand new Titan with us, as well as my favorite Graco 5900 line marking machine. Let's get started on this one and I'll show you exactly what we're up to. Let's do it. Now I purchased this one around two and a half years ago. I think I paid about £8,500 or $10,000 around 2 years ago for it. And that was for the very basic model. I have added a few little bits, as you can see. We've got the bead dispenser on the top. Now, this one was around $1,500 to add the bead dispenser. It's a gravity fed system. Honestly, it was a terrible spend. If you've ever used a gravity fed one, they just kind of trickle all over the place. They don't do a great job. So we don't use it. We actually use it as the world's most expensive toolbox at nearly 1,500 quid. But hey, that's what we added onto ours. We fitted twin lasers on this, so we have one at the start and one that we follow further along, so we're doing straight lines with those. So we've added a few little extras there, but apart from that, the machine is very much standard as you'd expect. Now, as I said, this has been my favorite machine. It isn't necessarily the best machine out there because, don't get me wrong, the hydraulics, like we have next to us just here, the power liner, the lines they get are amazing. These ones though, I still love it, to be honest. So this one uses the Honda GX 160 engine. It's 163 cc's, 4-stroke engine, holds around 0.6 of a litre of 15W30 for the summer, 5W30 for the winter in the oil, and we use the NGK spark plugs on these ones as well. So servicing on these is around 100 hours. Now what's great about this is it'll give you a solid 5 horsepower engine and it runs at around 3,300 RPMs, and this gives out a consistent, let's say 1,500 PSI that we run at with the 3.6 litre tank. That means we're running at around 1.4 litres an hour, giving us around 2.5 hours of complete runtime start to finish. Now, if you're like me, you're going to run in a couple of lines, you're probably going to turn the machine off. I'll comfortably use this machine all day long and probably top the tank up once, and that's literally it. That 3.6 litres would literally last me all day. So the other things to look out for in these machines, one of the great considerations is the pump and the filter housing that we have on here as well. So this is a Chromex pump. You need to service it with the throat seal liquid, top up the packing nut, and I typically do mine at around 100 hours, just service that piston, make sure everything's great. You can replace the packings inside there as well. Buying the whole pump itself is pretty expensive. It'll set you back around $1,000 to $1,500, so quite a pricey thing to do, but if you just keep on top of the throat seal liquid, it'll last you for years. This is a 1190, nice and easy to get on and off. All you need to do is just hand tight. You can twist this around, lift the filter out, give it a clean, put it back in. We typically do this every other day, or of course if you're going to be changing colors, you need to make sure you're doing that every single time when you're flushing out. Now when you are flushing out, you also have a little clip on the side here. This is a grounding clamp and you want to just connect this to something metallic or something conductive connected to the ground. So this could be a pole, a post, something like that, and that'll just discharge any built up energy inside this as well. Now, one of the great features about this, and one of my favorite features, is the display on here. So we can check mill thickness, we can measure distance that we're doing for parking spaces. So for example, if we're doing a 2.4 meter wide or a 16 foot long, this will actually measure start to finish for us and help us lay that out. It's also got a backlit display. So if you're ever doing anything at night or evenings like we do, or typically in the winter as it's just darker, the display is absolutely second to none. The other thing you get with these over some of the, say the Titan machines where you've got the analog controls, this one you've actually got a digital pressure gauge. So for this one here, you can just twist the little pot on here, it'll adjust the PSI for you. Now, the really important thing I love about that, obviously we can set it down to an absolute individual PSI, but if you're running at 3,600 RPMs on here, so full speed as I typically would, you'll maintain that pressure and you'll barely see that drop at all. You can also adjust the mill thickness of the lines, which is another great feature. So when you're going through the controls, you can set the mill thickness, which is how thick that line's going to be, and you can also adjust the width on there as well. Now when it comes down to the width of the line, you have got the nice spray gun at the front, which I have to say has been my favorite spray gun I've ever used. These things haven't really changed in probably 20, 30 years. They are a solid cast piece, feed straight up into the back of it. You can fit on your tip guards, change out the rubbers inside and change your spray tips really nice and easy. If you've ever got a clog inside here, it's just a twist back on here and this will release anything that you've got in. You can just fire it at the ground, release it and clean out the tip for you as well. Now you do get tip cleaners, but typically I find just flushing it out, spinning it round, pointing it at the ground or into a bucket, you can clear it nice and easy on your own that way. So definitely my favorite gun. The engine, as I said, is second to none, absolutely bulletproof. It's got a 25-degree inclined overhead cam on this one, and it gives you around 50 watts of usable power. Now, that is a useful thing to know, because if you're going to be running extras onto this, let's say a laser, for example, you need to know how many watts your laser is going to be, but you could also add other things such as a phone charger as well. So if you want to work out the size of your phone charger, plug in a 12-volt supply to it, you can charge that on the go as well. But it's always useful to bear that sort of thing in mind. Anything more than that, if you wanted more than 50 watts, you'd have to change the stator on the engine itself, but it's not something I would typically need or want. You're going to be using this machine to power lasers and maybe a few lights as well. So that's really the only considerations we have. At nighttime, we'll run lights on it and we'll run the lasers at the same time. So maximum power, we run at 3,300 RPMs, and we've never seen this thing skip a beat. Last thing to go through on these, if you're considering them, is to get the perfect straight line. One of the things you're going to need to do is adjust the actual front wheel itself. Now, over time, this can become a little bit loose and it just needs a little bit of minor adjustment. Easiest way to do it, take the paint off. You can tilt the machine back, and underneath you've got a nut just at the front, and then you've got 2 screws at the side. So if it's pulling one side, you can loosen the screw, tighten the opposite side, that'll straighten it back out. Push it backwards and forwards a few times, you'll find it running true, and when you're happy, you can tighten that central nut up. The other thing, of course, is the gun arms and the mounts that you get for these. These have to be the best design I've ever seen. They're very simple. You've just got a butterfly clamp on there. All you need to do to adjust these, though, is literally loosen them here. You can move the arms straight around. Really, really nice and easy. Exactly the same with the lasers. At the bottom, you can just slide them left and right just by loosening, again, the little butterfly clamp. But one of the most important considerations is the gun position. On this one, Graco suggests you can actually reduce the hand-arm vibration by 60% simply by moving the gun from the front on this mount to the rear mount that you get on the back. Now, it won't just help you reduce the hand-arm vibration, which is around 0.6 over an 8-hour shift, but it will also give you a straighter line. So if you mount that on the back, you've got 55 PSI in each tire. As you're going forward, that'll give you the straightest line you're ever going to need. The downside, of course, is if you're going up against a curb, you want to get to the very end of the curb, and that's the reason we would mount our gun on the front. In an ideal world, we just have a mount on the front and the back and simply change that gun position, or you can have a twin gun. Another great benefit of this system is to add the twin gun. You've already got the connectors just here and a space for your cable to connect up. All you need to do is simply unclip whichever gun you're not going to be using at that particular time. So you could select between front and rear gun mounts, simply pull the clip out the side, and you'll only spray from the one you need. That's pretty much it for this machine. We're going to be doing a few more reviews on some of the other machines, and I will see you guys in the next video.